Evening, folks. Brian here. It's Thursday, June 5, 2025. Hope you're all swell. Let's go over what's been happening to our overcharged planet for the past week or so. So we've just had more than a few days, consecutive days of Earth being bombarded with the highly energetic particles originating from the sun. Mostly from these coronal hole streams, but also the G4 event from the CME hit impact. But mostly it's the accelerated solar winds carrying a highly charged particle, which can have a more impactful event. It's this long-term stream for days and days and days, as opposed to a CME impact lasting just that much. Okay, CME impact that much, coronal hole stream that long. So this constant flow of the highly energetic particles has been funneled down into the outer core, where a magnetic field is generated from, where it heats up and pressurizes the magma. Now the mantle plumes are like conduits, which are anchored to the outer core, and the trace up through the mantles to the underside of the lithosphere, exerting its hot magnetic pressure. So you'll often see me doing this hand gesture. Okay, so mantle plume tail, which is anchored to the outer core of our planet, rises up through the mantles. Call this the mantle transition zone, 410 to 660 kilometers deep. When it comes to the underside of the lithosphere, in which the crust of the oceans lie upon, it creates a mantle plume head, which can expand. It can expand 1,000+ kilometers in diameter. I believe it has branches, arms, nodes, pushing up underneath the lithosphere. And as a result, you have earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, fires. Now, what have I been showing you for the past almost a week now? Let's go through everything that's been happening. I showed you the large heat spread in southern Sicily. We've never had heat like that before. And then 3 to 4 days later was the Etna explosion eruption. Obviously, magma was moving its way into the magma reservoir or chamber for Etna. Annoying mosquito. Next, we have a heat detection in the English Channel. First time there. Then offshore Northern California at the subduction zone. This is what gets my attention. Heat in the waters and just offshore, which is just over the subducting plates, the plate interface. Magma, or the heat from the magma, has been escaping from the interface of the plates. Now, of course, you have the earthquake in the middle of the Gorda plate, not subduction zone, fracture zone, in the middle of the plate. This is the same area where that buoy went into motion a couple of weeks ago. Then, was it yesterday or day before? North Pacific plate, we have a heat detection offshore of the subduction zone with an earthquake. This was after two heat detections in the Kuril Island subduction zone, which is between northern Japan and Kamchatka Peninsula, with, yes, that's correct, earthquakes. Other areas, the Arabian Sea, large spreads of heat, then earthquakes. So that heat, so I want you to try and imagine. I was looking for a can, I don't have any more. Take a can of thick Canadian pea soup. Put it in a pot. That is the magma. Now, it can be the magma of the outer core, or it could be at the mantle transition zone or the core mantle transition zone. Magma. Turn up the heat of the burner of the stove and watch that soup start to bubble up. and bubble up over the pot. That's what the cosmic rays, the energetic particles, does to the magma down below. Heats it up and it pressurizes it. It has to ascend, it has to rise up through the mantle plumes. And now, as of today, this is not the first time, folks. Continental shelf off the coast of Massachusetts. A heat detection. It's about maybe the fourth or the fifth time. This suggests there's something down below. This is the same area, pretty much in line with Portsmouth, where there's been some seismic activity for the past 12 months. Earthquakes. It is an area to watch. And then finally, we have the earthquake swarms in Idaho. So it is believed or understood that the magma reservoir for the chamber for Yellowstone extends underneath Idaho. I'm going to try and show you one idea. Actually, before I do, a very crude visualization of what happens to the outer core. This is the outer core inside of our planet. Inside the outer core is the inner core. This is where the highly energetic particles get funneled down to. There's a term called outer core expansion because we've had so much of the charged particles coming in. The outer core is expanded. It's a pressure. This is very crude. How's that pressure going to escape? It's a carpenter's pencil. Mantle plumes are anchored to the outer core. That harder material is going to rise up through the mantle plume tail to the underside of the lithosphere. It's going to spread and create the what's called the mantle plume head. The outer core expands. We still have a lot of trapped energy. Hang on a minute. We still have a lot of trapped energy in the core. It's pressurizing the magma. We're in for a ride yet. So once again, the cosmic rays, when interacting with the atmospheric atoms, the secondary showering particles of muons are created, and they reach down and penetrate through the crust, funnel down the magnetic field lines and all the way into the outer core of the planet. So this is a 3D representation of the Yellowstone magma chamber and the magma reservoir. The reservoir feeds the chamber. The magma chamber, the red is the magma reservoir, the yellow is the mantle plume. So we have a mantle plume, or hot spot, if you will, fills up the reservoir, which fills up the chamber. It is suggested that the actual reservoir extends underneath Idaho, hence those earthquake swarms. Now this animation is a representation of magma seeping through the plate interface or around the plates of the subducting plates. And this is what I believe is happening in Northern California with those heat detections I showed you. So the magma rises, wraps around, this could be an idea of the heat detections I showed you offshore Northern California. So this becomes a global condition or event. Again, outer core, right? You have an influx of cosmic rays coming in. It's going to pressurize the magma, heat it up, expand. Outer core expansion. That pressure has to be exerted, it has to escape, and it's going to escape up through the mantle plumes to the underside of the lithosphere, where we're going to see an increase in volcanism, earthquakes, fires and alarmingly so, more heat detections along subduction zones, other fracture zones, and in the middle of the plates. I can assure you that since I started watching the heat for years now, it's never been like this. It's continuing in frequency and numbers, expanding. More heat everywhere. Before it used to be, single spot here, single spot there. Now we have multiple events all around our planet. I've just given you a list of things that have been happening in the past few days relating to the outer core expansion, with the heat detections, the earthquakes, the volcanic eruptions, and so on. As for the northeast quadrant of the United States, I came up with that theory, that idea. After the idea, I suggested that maybe there's something happening below Australia 2.5 years ago. Please remember all that sulfur dioxide emissions around the New Jersey, New York area. Please remember the substantial large earthquake in New York and other earthquakes, Maine, heat spreads off the coast on the continental shelf. Please remember all those drones. And please remember the bullshit lies from the office of the President of the United States as soon as he came into office, through his mouthpiece, press secretary. Remember the lies, the gaslighting. All those orbs and UAVs, drones, they were all authorized by the FAA, and the rest were just recreational. End of statement. You were not allowed to ask any questions. You were lied to. You were gaslit. As with all else. So I will continue to say, let's watch the Kamchatka Peninsula area. Heck, everywhere, man. Okay. As it has been written, so shall it be. In one place after another, and another, and another. In conjunction with the wars and the rumors of the wars and the nations rising up against nations and the kingdoms which are forming alliances with kingdoms rising up against other kingdoms. And then so too at the same time, the pestilence and the famines. The famines would come, I would think, after the wars and the earthquakes and so on. Anyway, global pressure, global heat. That's the way I say it, folks. Outer core. Day after day after day after day after day of solar winds, solar storms, geomagnetic instability, penetration, influx into the outer core. Okay. That's what I think was going on. As you were.